It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, failure, laziness and negligence laid bare for the public to see. The Nottingham families speak out following the conclusion of the public inquiry. Ian Coates, Barnaby Webber and Grace O'Malley Kumar were killed by Valdo Calacane in June 2023. And their families say the inquiry into the attacks has revealed a catastrophic collapse of responsibility. The inquiry will report back next year. But today, the victims' family said they shouldn't have to wait until then for change to happen. And race and the stigma around mental health cannot be factors in how authorities deal with those deemed a risk to others.
Mental health appears to be the hot potato that nobody wants to deal with. And it's pushed from one to the other, you know, right care, right person, that's clearly not working.
Also tonight, calls for a public inquiry into the murder of Henry Novak. Sky News has spoken to Sikh community leaders who say they raised concerns about his killer, Vikram Digwa, but they believe police did not take their warnings seriously enough. Plus, the Prime Minister talks tough on tech companies and what they are doing to stop children sending nude images. Sir Keir Starmer has given the likes of Apple and Google 3 months to tackle this issue. We'll find out how it might work. And with just days to go until the World Cup kicks off in North America, we'll discuss how England and Scotland's players are going to cope with the blistering heat in some of the host cities. All that's come and much more on the UK Tonight. The families of those killed in the Nottingham attacks say race and the stigma around mental health cannot be factors in how the authorities deal with those deemed a risk to others. They were speaking after the conclusion of the inquiry into the attacks, in which Barnaby Webber, Grace O'Malley Kumar and Ian Coates were stabbed to death by paranoid schizophrenic Valdo Calacane. He is currently serving an indefinite hospital order after pleading guilty to 3 counts of manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. But the families of his victims have always maintained that the attacks were avoidable, that Calacane should never have been free to kill their loved ones, and they have never accepted his sentence. Today, Barnaby and Grace's parents and Ian's sons gave their reaction to what they've heard over the past 3 months and what they want to see happen next.
I wholeheartedly believed justice would be served, and I was wrong. Dad, Barney and Grace had been absolutely let down by the people I'd previously held at such high regard. What has been revealed during the evidence of the inquiry has utterly astounded and disgusted me. Over the course of the inquiry, the true harrowing scale of the failures and laziness and negligence has finally been laid bare for the public to finally see.
Every single agency failed. Every single one, without exception. Mental health services failed to treat and manage. Police repeatedly failed to act. Agencies didn't talk. Individuals chose to look the other way. Warnings were ignored. People chose not to care or be curious. And the fear of stigma and bias was placed above safety and duty.
There is vindication today for pointing out the staggering failures that led to the avoidable Nottinghamshire attacks. This must never be allowed to happen again.
Meanwhile, the survivors of that attack are calling for accountability and meaningful change. Greg Almond represents Wayne Burkett and Sharon Miller, who are left with life-changing injuries. He said it's important their stories are taken into account when examining what happened.
I think it's really important that the survivors' story isn't forgotten about. And I think that's key, that it has been somewhat overlooked by certain public authorities, whether it's the government, whether it's the police or the NHS, and that shouldn't be allowed to happen. Nottingham is a very important city in this country, and like Manchester, that's had huge investment, Nottingham could thrive if it had that investment. But fundamentally, we need to get our public services up to speed. They need to be held accountable for what's happened, but also improved, because it's so important for Wayne, Sharon and all of the people in Nottingham that they have that trust in their public services, because clearly they're services that we use on a regular basis. They're the services that we call upon in our greatest moment of need.
Well, earlier today, I sat down with Barnaby's mum, Emma, and Grace's father, Sanjoy, and I asked them whether a fear of racial bias helped allow their children's killer to fall through the cracks.
I think there's a fear of stigma. I think there's a fear of racial bias. I think there's the fear of mental health itself. We've seen from the police and from the NHS, mental health appears to be the hot potato that nobody wants to deal with, and it's pushed from one to the other. You know, right care, right person. That's clearly not working, and it's time, I believe, to ask those uncomfortable questions and, discover what might be the unpalatable truth. But the ideology and the target setting of detaining less black men, for example, or, you must do least restrictive methods and people must... you have to... The right care has to be given when it's needed, and there has to be a recognition...
care for that person, but also for public safety.
Well, there is. I think there has to be a recognition that there are some people who are mentally unwell that actually pose an enormous risk to others as well as to themselves. And there seems to be a fear of recognition of that. What I believe is happening that makes me so fearful at the moment is that tragedies like ours and Henry Novak, his case, or the Southport girls and that awful attack, is that the tragedy is being used as an agenda by those who don't seek the truth and seek to identify and make things better. It's used as an opportunity to hate and to incite violence and racism. So I think the fear of stigma is actually what's creating the stigma, and which is why we've called on the government to meet with us now, because they have an opportunity to address it and get on top of it and ahead of it, rather than being fearful.
Hearing from Callaghan's family during the inquiry, they said they were let down by mental health service in the system, a system so broken they couldn't operate with it, and it let them down. As we said, we heard from his brother and mother during the course of the inquiry. Do you have some sympathy for the Callaghan family? I
think that families are being let down by a fractured mental health system. But to be a supportive family, you do have to be engaged and be close to your...
Absolutely right.
...to your child or to your loved one. And for whatever reasons, there's, some of the history has started to come out with the Callaghan family, but it was, they didn't have very much contact with him, but they clearly did. They clearly did at some point try to make inroads and with the various teams that were attempting to care for him. But I do maintain you need to see your son more than twice in 2 years. But I do believe that part of the problem in this country, talking on a wider level, is that families are not respected or engaged with enough. And we've heard GDPR and confidentiality, patient confidentiality
something that wasn't afforded to your children or Ian Coates in death.
But I think that I asked Sanjoy this one day at the inquiry when it was coming forward, well, we can't do that because there's GDPR, why couldn't you say... Actually, you said to me, if a patient's with me and they're at risk to themselves or risk to others, then you will go above the GDPR.
Well, it's your duty.
Law. And your duty is to repair and safety is first.
To care for themselves and someone else. And that just wasn't followed.
Yeah, it feels like it's an excuse to hide behind, and it's really, really not.
Which you've heard a lot over the last few months. You had to fight for this inquiry. You weren't going to get one.
No.
And as families, you fought tooth and nail to get it. You weren't meant to know any of this, of what's been uncovered. The public weren't meant to know any of this. If you hadn't have fought for this, nobody would have known the sheer scale, the systemic failures that are within mental health services, the police, and arguably the criminal justice system as well. Sanjoy, how does it make you feel to have got to this? I wonder if it is a level of achievement, but, given that you had to fight for this and it was going to be covered up without you.
So many families have been in touch and said that when we heard news like you have, we just retracted back and just couldn't do anything for months and months and months. And it's the strength and support of the families in our country that has actually kept us both going, I'd say, for our families. There has been so much support out there saying that you have fought a cause that we couldn't. Yeah. And, the one thing I feel absolute, absolutely resolved for is that what happened with us cannot happen to anyone else. It is the most hurtful thing you ever go... You know, I can't even put into words the amount of pain you carry with you. And the thing is, it is an infliction of it's an infliction of a whole life sentence on us of pain. And it's just impossible. There's such a vacuum in our lives. No one else can go through what we have.
You call Grace the love of your life.
Absolutely. Thank you for remembering that.
It really struck me, because I think that was a perfect sentence to encapsulate what you as a family are going through.
Absolutely right. And I think it's the support from other families as well who are actually, you know, by the sidelines telling us to go and get what we deserve in terms of justice, in terms of accountability. And they're right behind us, and that really keeps us going.
Will you continue to treat this as a miscarriage of justice? Is that next for you, Emma? Because I know you want to meet with the Prime Minister. You've said that publicly today. You were calling for that meeting.
Not just him.
Sorry?
Not just him.
Not just him. Everyone that can make a difference.
The relevant members of the Cabinet.
What is the next moving point for this? How do you get to the point where this is called a miscarriage of justice?
Well, I firmly believe it is a miscarriage of justice, and I believe that what's been uncovered during this inquiry already, and there possibly could be more to come, proves every fear that we had with regards to the investigation, the prosecution and the disposal of him. And so what we have to do is now gather with our legal team, and we have to meet with the relevant... you need to go to the top, because you need to speak to the decision makers. If the law's not there now, then we need to make it the law there now. But it has to be addressed, but I think today isn't the day to go into detail of why. But we are not going to stop, because it's such a grievous wrong, and that we have to right it. And I would never forgive myself, as Barney's mum, if I didn't do everything I could to address it. And as Sanjoy said, when we're asking for accountability from individuals and organisations, then it's not to vilify, it's not to ruin people's lives, but without proper accountability for such terrible failure, and it has to go to the top. Yeah. We have to stop this ability in this country to look at the low-hanging fruit. It has to be the chief executives, it has to be the chief constables, it has to be the senior investigation officers, it has to be board members. If you get paid the big bucks and you have to make the big decisions, then you have to make the big falls when your hospital, your trust, or your police station or your force are failing, and they're failing because you're not managing and scrutinising it. What's come out is shameful and disgraceful, but it's what we do with it, I think, is the really important thing. And if someone loses their job and heads must roll, then so be it.
Now, British Sikhs say they are facing a backlash following the murder of Henry Novak, the teenager stabbed to death by Vikram Digwa, a Sikh man who used a religious knife in the attack. Now, Sikh community leaders have been telling Sky News the murder could have been prevented if police had acted on their concerns. Our communities correspondent Lisa Holland has this next report.
Vikram Digwa selecting his swords at a Sikh martial arts event in East London. The video shared with Sky News was taken 2.5 years before Digwa went on to kill teenager Henry Novak. A death which the Sikh community believe might have been prevented, given they'd already raised concerns about him to police.
Where this is actually going is we have been thrown under the bus, and our sacred Kirpan has been called into question.
With Sikhs across the UK facing a backlash following Digwa's conviction, political lobbying at the highest levels is underway in the UK and from India, with calls for a public inquiry.
The reason why we've called for a public inquiry is the only way to get to the truth surrounding this whole affair, so we can learn the lessons and to learn whether actually Henry's life could have been saved.
Which you think it could have been?
Absolutely, because if the police had acted on the reports to them and CPS had taken this seriously, Digwa could have been off the streets.
In 2023, Vikram Digwa had been reported to police by his local Gurdwara, or place of worship. We've spoken to the person who says they lodged the complaints over what they describe as safeguarding and the theft of weapons. We've revoiced their words.
I was really deeply concerned and made the reports to the necessary people and also chasing them as well. It really did impact me for a long time, his behaviour. He is a monster. He's not at all representative of Sikhs in our eyes.
In response, Hampshire Police told us police followed up all available lines of inquiry and arrested 2 men in their 20s on suspicion of theft. On the basis of the evidence which was made available to the police, no further action was taken against these men. The Sikh community prides itself on its peaceful integration into British society. But since Digwar's trial, it's been subjected to a torrent of hatred online and at this Gurdwara in West London on the phone.
We have got nasty, poisonous phone calls received in our office yesterday by a number of people saying nasty things about our religion.
What do they say?
They're calling Sikhs murderers and using very dirty, foul language against us.
Just literally hearing the phone ring there, how does that make you feel now? Are you on edge?
It is on edge because when we pick up, is this another phone call that's going to be swearing at us?
In the West Midlands, police are treating an attack on 6 members of a Sikh family as racially motivated. This 72-year-old man was left with a broken cheekbone and fractured shoulder. He and 5 members of his family were punched and kicked to the ground, the Sikh Federation believes because of Digwar's actions. Theirs is a visible faith, and whilst some Sikhs tell us they're staying indoors out of fear of abuse on the streets, it's led these men, in the face of internet threats, to stand guard outside their Gurdwara.
The Gurdwara has been described as a place where the ideology that Digwar carried is being indoctrinated into the youth. That's as far from the truth as you can get. When people start to fan these flames of division, fire can spread in any direction.
The Sikh community is fighting back, believing it's being punished for the actions of another and viewed with suspicion in a way they've never been before. Lisa Holland, Sky News.
So to come on the UK tonight, the ultimatum given to tech firms to block children from sharing nude images.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching.
Good to see you again.
How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back.
Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be allowed to war.
I'm just going to put some body armour on. I'm Yalda Hakim.
Phone companies such as Apple and Google have been told by the government to make it impossible for children to take, share or view nude images on their devices. Firms have been given 3 months to make it happen or risk facing fines or even criminal liability. Our technology reporter, Mickey Carroll, has the story.
Soon, your phone should block you from seeing, sending or sharing nude images by default. Here's why. In a world first, the government has just announced measures to stop children sharing nudes online. At the moment, 91% of online child sexual abuse reports contain self-generated content by children. And the police are dealing with a child sexual abuse report every 5 to 6 minutes.
This is not an impossible challenge. These are some of the most innovative companies in the world, and I believe they can solve it.
The companies that make phones and tablets, like Apple and Google, are going to have to introduce device-level tech, so technology embedded into the phone's operating system that will make it impossible for your camera to take nude images, for you to send nudes over social media, or to share them even if you didn't take them. Going forward, all phones in the UK should have these blocks installed, and adults will have to verify their age on their phones to prove they're over 18 if they want to take off the blocks. Now, this tech actually already exists in both Apple and Google phones, the two brands that 99% of the country uses, but it only applies to their own apps like iMessage or Google Messages. Once these changes come into force, the blocks will be applied to every app.
These device-level functionalities, they're things that they've existed for a while now, and it's time that the government hold tech companies to account and say, if you don't use them, we will enforce you to.
Now, we're the first country in the world to do this. We're not the only ones considering it. Some states in the US, Australia, and the Philippines are all looking into similar measures. So where are the potential weak points? This all relies on age verification methods working, and we've seen since Australia banned social media for under 16s and the UK started age-gating adult content online, that young people will work out ways to get around these systems. There's also a risk that this pushes children towards unregulated phones and devices that don't have the blocks in place, and some will be concerned about their privacy. Although the Home Office insists that this is not a surveillance exercise, the idea of every adult having to verify their age is likely to spark a fairly fiery debate. Now, both Apple and Google seem to already be on board, and they do have the technology in place, but this applies to all the tech companies making devices. If they fail to act, the government says it won't hesitate to legislate.
Well, we're joined now to discuss this by Roxy Longworth, who's written a book about her experience of being pressured into sending explicit images as a young teenager at just 13 years old. Roxy, we've spoken before on this programme. Really good to have you back to talk about what is being seen as a big step forward in the protection of children. What's your reaction to this news from the Prime Minister today?
When I found out about the announcement, honestly, I burst into tears. It was like this crazy mix of relief and hope, and also a lot of sadness that it's taken so long, but a lot of hope.
You were just 13 when you were pressured to send images to an older boy at school. And what takes a minute, we know the effects of which can last a lifetime, as in your case. Do you think this kind of restriction would have helped 13-year-old you?
I mean, if it would have made all the difference. It would have completely changed my life, because if I hadn't been able to take that photo, it would have added a huge blocker in me being groomed, exploited, blackmailed. If there had been that blocker. But on top of that, actually, it would have made it impossible for once this man had these photos, for him to be able to share them so widely, so quickly, it would have stopped that from happening as well. And then on top of that, I think it would have made a big difference in, it was so normalized that this man was able to persuade me that there was something wrong with me if I wasn't going to do this, and then people wouldn't like me because of that. And so I think this will help us move forward to a world where this child sexual abuse material being spread is not normal.
Yeah, Roxy, you use that word normalised, and, you know, it should be far from normal for children to be able to do this, but it is so easy because children now as young as 11, 12, 13 have a device in their hand capable of, you know, generating nude images within a matter of seconds and, as you said, then sent on. The government said 91% of online child sexual abuse reports contain self-generated content from children themselves. Now, as part of the work you do, raising awareness about the harms, how much of this rings true to you?
I mean, completely. For me, in my personal story, you know, in my head when I was 13, I didn't think I was the kind of person who was vulnerable or susceptible to being groomed and exploited online. That would never cross my mind until it was way too late and I was completely being controlled by these older guys. So it definitely rings true in my experience. But also, I run a campaign where we gather young people's experiences growing up online, and we have messages come through, anonymous messages all the time, or we collected them at festivals and things from children who are asked to send photos from such a young age now, 11, 12, 13, being sent photos, being asked to send them, being pressured a lot to sending them in order to either, you know, lots of kids think that that's how you get a boyfriend or a girlfriend for the first time, those kind of things. I mean, yeah, it completely rings true.
Yeah, I mean, it's all happening so young because children are getting these phones so young. You know, children are seeing pornography at the age of 13, sometimes even younger. In terms of the work with Behind Our Screens, which is the organisation that you now run, what is it you're trying to do? Because here the government are putting the onus and the pressure on big tech, whereas up to now it really feels like it's been about education. It's really the two going hand in hand, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the goal of Behind Our Screens was to amplify young people's experiences, so that to try and bridge that gap between young people and adults, so that education could be more informed by real experiences and parents could have a better idea of what was going on. I think that is all still super important. The fact is like things will always go wrong, and kids need to feel like they have somewhere they can go to for help without being punished. I still believe that strongly. However, if there was one thing that could have stopped what happened to me happening, I think it could have been this. If this actually ends up working out, then I think that would have made the world of difference and I wouldn't have lost those years of my life. So I think those two things do have to still go hand in hand, but I think this could be huge.
This is just about creating a barrier, isn't it? Because, you know, children are impulsive. They will make split-second decisions, whether it's to do with peer pressure or, you know, a romantic link with an older boy. And just having that block where they can't do it, that helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's all, yeah, and it's also not just a blocker to stop young people from doing this, it's a blocker to have from these adults and or peers of being able to so easily exploit these children. Like that is, it's way too easy currently.
Yeah. Are you slightly disappointed today by the fact that this technology has existed for some time now, and the Prime Minister has suddenly dropped it out there today and said the tech companies, you've got 3 months. I mean, this is the kind of pressure that campaigners like you have been calling for years. Is there a slight hint of disappointment from you today?
You know, it's now been 10 years since what happened to me happened. I'm 23 now, and it has been pretty heartbreaking to think about every day, to think about the number of kids who have been sat in their rooms feeling like I did, like there was no way they can keep going because of that shame. And so yeah, it's of course incredibly upsetting that it has taken this long and that it is in that time impacted so many kids. And I wish that was not the case. But I'm hopeful that we are moving in the right direction, and I just don't want this to happen to anyone else.
No, exactly, and that's why you do what you do. It's too late for you, essentially, you know, but, you know, you're finding solace and recovery in helping others. How much confidence do you have in the tech companies? We've had positive noises from a couple of them. As we go to air, I don't think we've actually heard from Apple yet, but are you confident that they will take it upon themselves to do this within 3 months? The UK, the first country to be pushing these tech companies for this kind of measure, because the government have said, look, if you don't do this in 3 months, then we're going to legislate. How much confidence do you have for big tech to go, OK, we'll do this?
I mean, I'm not an expert. You know, it hasn't seemed that likely yet, but I'm still super hopeful. I think this is a really exciting opportunity to stop this kind of thing from happening to kids. I'm really hopeful that they see this as an opportunity, because this is not right. There should not be those children sat in their rooms or worse. You know, I just hope and I pray that this ends up actually making a difference, to be honest.
Yeah, hear to that, Roxy. It's incredible that we find ourselves in this position where children are as young as 11, 12, 13, sending explicit images to one another. And here's the hope that, you know, common sense tech companies and the government are catching up with the problem and willing to do something about it. Roxy, really appreciate your time, and I hope we speak again soon. Thank you. That's Roxy Longworth there, author of When You Lose It and founder of Behind Our Screens. Still to come on the programme tonight, billionaire businessman David Sullivan under fresh scrutiny after he resigned from West Ham over allegations of improper conduct. Billionaire businessman David Sullivan, who stepped down as chairman of West Ham at the weekend over allegations of improper conduct, is facing further scrutiny tonight following a joint investigation by the BBC and The Times. A number of accusations have been made against him, all from women who were models seeking work at the Daily and Sunday Sport newspapers. Sullivan, who made his fortune in the pornography industry, says he categorically denies the claims. A warning that this report from our crime commentator Martin Brunt contains language some viewers may find offensive.
The allegations against billionaire David Sullivan, his behaviour towards women, aren't new. He says he's known about them for decades, and he denies them. In recent years, even supporters of his own club, West Ham, have taunted him from the terraces. But now the accusations have reached a much wider audience, the BBC's Panorama and the Times newspaper. The claims centre on the tycoon's time as owner of the salacious sport newspapers and his personal recruitment of wannabe Page 3 models. Glamour model Sasha Wall said she auditioned for Mr Sullivan in her underwear in a bedroom at his palatial Essex home.
Then he just turns around to me and goes, "Do you know who," and says particularly a model's name. And I say, "Yeah." He went, "Well, she's one of my special friends. Would you like to be one of my special friends?" And obviously there was no like, I wasn't stupid. I knew exactly what this was going now. And I was like, to recall my courage, and I was like, "Mate, if you think I'm going to you to get in the paper, you've got another thing coming. I do not need to do that." And then he just got really much closer to me and went, "What, not even a blowjob?" And I was like, "Oh my God, no, no."
Sasha said she left the house unharmed and was given modelling work by Sullivan.
And I ran into the ensuite and grabbed my dress. Gone for the door. At this point, I realised the door's locked. So I raised my voice and I was like, "Open the door now." And he was like, all right, keep your knickers on, keep your knickers on. I was like, "No, just open the door now." I think I was causing such a fuss at this point that he opened the door. And then I bolted out of that house.
She condemned others she said were complicit in sending young girls to Sullivan's casting couch.
You know what he's doing. You can't think it's all OK. You can't think it's all been OK. But they're exactly the same. They're on the payroll. And so they do what the bidding of the predator wants.
Mr Sullivan, who made his fortune in the sex industry and from property deals, said of course he's had relationships with models. He owned the sweet shop, he said. Why wouldn't he sample the sweets? But all of it, he insists, was consensual. When he stepped down as co-chair of West Ham at the weekend, he said in a statement, "The false allegations levelled against me have been sensationalised by the media. After a lifetime spent building businesses in the adult industry, in which I have met thousands of women, it is sadly inevitable that a small number of improper conduct claims are being made against me. I categorically deny these claims." Journalist Mark Killick wrote a book about Sullivan, The Sultan of Sleaze, 30 years ago. It examined his successful pornography business, but there were other issues.
It was a complex set of things that emerged. He knew, as he has said, thousands of women in the adult sex industry. That is not surprising. And many of them were very comfortable with the relationships they had with Sullivan. But there were some that did make allegations of coercion and intimidation.
It's a worrying idea that women who were desperate for fame and fortune by taking their clothes off may have been coerced into having sex with David Sullivan.
These are serious allegations and they will be investigated. Sullivan says they have already been investigated by the police and the police have decided to take no further action. And there's some truth in that.
Mr Sullivan has vowed to sue the BBC and the Times for libel. Martin Brunt, Sky News.
All eyes will be on the Bank of England next week when the Monetary Policy Committee announces its monthly decision on interest rates. And a member of that committee, rate setter Alan Taylor, has given Sky News his insights into which way the Bank of England may go. We joined Alan as he visited the West Midlands, getting a feel for the health of the economy. Here's our economics and data editor, Ed Conway.
What is it that makes an economy tick? That's one of the questions the members of the Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee, the people who decide your interest rates, are constantly asking themselves. And sometimes the only way to get the answer is to leave the City of London for places like this.
This has to be built first to get a local transportation.
So it's a bit of a mixed picture, but in terms of consumer confidence, have you seen any change in recent months or weeks?
Alan Taylor, pleased to hear you.
We've secured rare access on one of these regional visits, as NPC member Alan Taylor, an academic whose main expertise is economic history, goes on a whirlwind tour of the West Midlands. First stop, the site of what will, in a decade or so, be Curzon Street Station, Birmingham's HS2 terminus. An extraordinarily expensive infrastructure project. But what Taylor is looking for here is clues.
On HS2, like, what were the kinds of things that you were trying to ask about? It was the supply chain you were mostly...
I think it's striking how much the supply chain pressures around the world are filtering into this project, like many others, very quickly. You know, this is just one example, but steel, copper, concrete, raw materials, it's a very volatile world right now.
As recently as February, Taylor was calling for interest rate cuts down below the current 3.75% level. But following the war in the Persian Gulf, that has all changed.
We're holding. I think that is, for me, the right place to be right now. I think interest rates don't need to go higher because they're quite restrictive at the moment. I feel comfortable where we are unless we get the worst case scenario. But I really want to get that sense of reassurance that this is moving behind us. Right now it's affecting this project, it's affecting businesses in the West Midlands.
So anyone holding out for a cut in interest rates might have to wait quite a while, it sounds like.
Until we get more clarity.
That sounds like he doesn't have any plans to vote for a rate rise anytime soon. But he's only one of 9 members, and investors expect the bank to raise rates later this summer. Next stop, Touchwood Shopping Centre in Solihull, and a briefing from the manager on the backstory of what's going on in retail and consumer spending.
Consumer confidence, I think it's still on a downward spiral. You know, stores that, if they've got a sale on, if they're selling something at a special low price, they're going to do really well. Equally, you've got some brands with really expensive stuff that are still doing great. So there is this kind of middle of the market area, which is more of a challenge.
The final stop here, a visit to the HQ of the country's most important car maker, Jaguar Land Rover. And here too, it's unexpected shocks, everything from trade wars to real wars to cyber attacks that are on the agenda.
Last year we were worried about tariffs. Well, they're still there, and many trade frictions are still growing. For JLR, you know, a major export market is the US. It's getting harder to export cars there. But it's not getting any easier to export cars to other places like China and Europe. The last year or so has been a lesson in all the risks you're exposed to.
The main takeaway of this tour is that hallmarks of that drama are everywhere to be found. Whether that makes interest rate decisions any easier, that's another matter. Ed Conway, Sky News in the West Midlands.
Still to come on the UK tonight, an investigation underway into the England cricket team following an incident at a nightclub in the early hours of this morning. And with just days until kick-off, how soaring temperatures could be the big curveball at this summer's World Cup.
Liberation Day.
By popular demand, here we are.
Donald Trump. It is quite the story. Wherever it goes, on Trump 100, we go with it.
Can you tell us who you're looking for?
Unbelievable we've come to this.
Are you overstating the reach and significance of this deal?
Not like you said it.
From the UK?
Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
It was 10 feet from him, and all of a sudden the shot's running out.
People impacted.
I'll tell you on another day on the podcast what that was all about.
Join us wherever you get your podcast.
This is how you travel when the mafia wants to kill you.
He's almost given up his own freedom, but that's the price he's willing to pay.
Here, they don't just arrest and Ndrangheta mafia members, they also live among them.
Time after time, I've seen the devastating impact of extreme weather and climate change.
We don't have much snow at the moment.
They've had a warm spring and exceptionally hot summer, and that means they're expecting to lose more than 3 times the amount of ice than they usually do.
Flames are still forcing people from their homes and leaving many questioning their futures.
Here was my life. We have nothing. I can't say anything, it's so sad.
This disaster is testing the resolve of everyone on this island.
The only way out now is by boat.
Everything you see is
devastated, and the misery being felt by people living here is repeated in towns and villages across Central Europe. Sky News, get the full story first.
Turkey is burying its dead. The loss is profound.
Whole families died in this collapse, generations wiped out.
The violence has penetrated the heart of the city rather than being contained to the estates around the edge, and that speaks to the level of anger being felt here. In Sweden, police have seized a lethal stash. This is just a small sample of the deadly arsenal taken off the streets.
This is an example of an advert, really. Anyone of any age could say, I'll do that for £1 million, and then have to go and shoot someone.
Yes.
I'm Siobhan Robbins, Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Berlin.
Now, coming up, we will ask whether England and Scotland will be able to handle the heat, quite literally, at the World Cup. It kicks off, of course, on Thursday. All the fixtures have gone into our family diary, so...
It's World Cup watch-up time.
It's World Cup. It's World Cup sticker time, and I can't get hold of stickers for love nor money. We've got the albums, but no stickers to put in there.
Now that it's really it's kicked in now. People know it's coming. It's 3 days away.
Should have stockpiled. Getting to every newsagents I can. Right, let's not talk about football. That's coming up. We're going to talk about cricket, because there's a big story coming out to do with England cricketers, and it's not about what's been going on the pitch.
No, not at all, not at all. And listen, we're sort of back here with England. We'll talk about that in a sec in terms of context, but the England Wales Cricket Board and also Saracens, and I'll explain why Saracens, are investigating an incident at a nightclub in the early hours of Monday morning involving the England cricket captain Ben Stokes, pace bowler Gus Atkinson, and also a Saracens Academy Rugby Union player. This is just hours after England beat New Zealand at Lord's in the first test. And the ECB have made a statement. They say they are currently investigating a breach of team protocols following the conclusion of the first men's test against New Zealand. Ben Stokes, Gus Atkinson were present at a nightclub in the early hours of Monday morning when an incident took place. We're seeking further information. Announcement will be made regarding the squad for the second test, and the cricket regulator has been informed. And the Saracens statement, similar. We're aware of an incident involving an academy player connected to Saracens on Sunday evening. The club is currently establishing the full facts and is in contact with the relevant authorities and individuals involved. So this is a serious matter, obviously, something that happened off the pitch. But
should they have been out?
Well,
when they talk about team protocol...
Yeah, so the first thing is that they have a midnight curfew. And the result of and this has clearly, broken that curfew. But this is the result of what's happened before with England, and we know that the Ashes tour in Australia was an absolute nightmare, both on and off the pitch. There have been allegations and claims of a drinking culture, which the ECB men's cricket managing director Rob Key denied. But clearly, look what's happening now. And they went off in a mid sort of tour trip to Noosa. And there was, you might remember this, actually, there was footage at the time which was shown on social media, which had Ben Duckett, the England opener, supposedly looking completely intoxicated and talking to a member of the public there. And before then, in October, Harry Brook, England's white ball captain, had been punched by a nightclub bouncer ahead of a one-day international in New Zealand. And he said he was alone, but then since it's been revealed that he was with two other players, Jacob Bethel and Josh Tongue. So clearly, England were hoping to make a step forward as a result of losing the Ashes badly.
Just had a good result.
And they just had a good result. But I think there's a couple of concerning things here. One is that it's involved the captain, Ben Stokes.
Yeah.
He is a man in a position of authority and responsibility. And he's a role model, whether he likes it or not. He absolutely is that. But on top of that, will he and will Gus Atkinson make the squad for the second test? Well, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But equally, even more importantly than that, what happens to Ben Stokes longer term? Will he retain the England captaincy? What role did he have to play? Obviously, as we mentioned, investigations are ongoing. Yeah. England Wales Cricket Board and also Saracens. So
it's a mess they could do without, let's put it that way.
Yes, exactly. So we'll see how those investigations pan out. But plenty more involving England, but not cricket, in our sporting headlines this evening.
Brendan, we haven't spoken to you since the end of the World Cup, after which there was a review. Lots of things seemed up in the air at that stage. Do you think you're fortunate to be given the chance to complete the job you started?
That wasn't really up to me. I was keen to carry on in the job because I did feel as if, You know, we've made some significant progress in the last 4 years, but the job isn't done. There's still some growth to go. I think our best days are in front of us as a cricket side. I think a lot of the stuff that we've developed over the last 4 years will allow us to shape our side as we move forward. I think, yes, we do need to make some improvements. Yes, we do need to become a smarter cricket team when the game's at its on a knife edge or the pressure's at its highest. But don't throw out what's worked previously, what's given us the base to be able to start to think about finishing off this product and making a cricket team which can compete against the best teams in the world consistently.
We'll come on to what those improvements might be, but from the point of which the review announced that the management stays in place to now, we've had 6 rounds of championship games, and given so much was up in the air, so many places perhaps up for grabs, would it have been helpful to be here for some of that cricket?
Look, we're very fortunate in being with English cricket that we have
A bit more on the World Cup. One of the big challenges will go beyond the usual tactics, talent and pressure, with extreme heat sent to test players in a different way. Researchers are warning temperatures will hit dangerous levels of 28 degrees and above at virtually all of the venues throughout the tournament, including England's base city of Kansas. In southern parts of the United States and northern Mexico, 40 degrees isn't uncommon over the summer months. Well, we're joined now by Dr. Robert Huggins, President of Occupational Safety and Athlete Performance at Corey Stringer Institute at the University of Connecticut. Really good to have you on the programme this evening, because this is a real concern. When we talk about hot, this is off the charts hot for us watching here from the UK, hearing of highs of 40 degrees. Just how dangerous could this be?
Yeah, the heat can definitely impair people's performance, obviously increase dehydration, higher likelihood of heat-related injury, and I would imagine some tactical changes will definitely need to occur. Heat exhaustion and exertional heat stroke are a major concern. When the body temperature gets above 40.5 degrees Celsius, it is an emergent situation, and the medical staff is going to have to treat them very quickly.
Yeah, you're one of the signatories of an open letter released last month. You and a group of world-leading scientists warning FIFA its current heat safety measures for the World Cup are inadequate and could put players at risk of serious harm. What kind of safety measures have they put in place, and why are they inadequate?
Yeah, so they put some safety measures in place as it pertains to increasing a break to 3 minutes. We do not feel that the 3-minute break is adequate enough to allow for the human body to cool, especially during a match. And we would like to increase that break and provide ample opportunities for the athletes to hydrate and cool, to allow their body temperatures to stay at a normal level during play.
I know that you've asked for breaks to be extended to 6 minutes. I mean, you know, to the novice, that's an extra 3 minutes. You know, how would that make a difference? Perhaps you can tell us.
Sure. I mean, what you do in those 3 minutes really, 3 additional minutes really matters. So if you can cool the body for 6 minutes versus 3 minutes using some cold modalities, ice towels, etc., maybe even immersion, putting someone in a tub at halftime, these things can all get the body temperature down to safe levels, allowing them to continue to perform. But it also gives more time to get fluids in. You can only drink so much in 3 minutes. And if we could increase that time, it would allow the players to meet their fluid needs, because they're going to be sweating copiously.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stadiums obviously are in cities that are used to extreme temperatures, so they have self-cooling systems. And we know that the kickoff times have been modified to accommodate for the heat. They're being played later when the sun isn't high, and, you know, stadiums have adequate coverings. But, you know, what are the effects on the body from this kind of heat? As you said, some athletes in the US and this part of the world used to it, get on with it weekly, but what are the effects on the body if you're not used to it, which our players from Scotland and England aren't really?
Yes, like I said, excessive dehydration can definitely occur if fluids are not replaced. Folks who are not heat acclimatized, who are not used to the heat, are going to have challenges. Their heart rate will be higher, their core body temperature will be higher, they will feel hotter just in general. So, it's very critical that the clubs coming over to the U.S. And those in the U.S. train in the heat to adequately prepare. Otherwise, they can have dizziness and fatigue and nausea, amongst many other signs and symptoms, with the worst being, confusion, mental status problems, and dangerously high body temperatures.
Yeah, and presumably it affect other factors like sleep, training, appetite as well, because athletes have to fuel, and in extreme heat, people's appetites change. That could have an effect as well, couldn't it?
Absolutely. If you're consuming less calories because you're just not as hungry, you're not going to have the fuel or the ability to deliver that energy to your tissues so that you can perform well. And obviously, on the world's greatest stage, they need to be able to perform well. And you want these players to do their best.
Yeah, with the World Cup kicking off in just a matter of days now, the England team in Kansas City already preparing, but, will they have enough time to acclimatise? Because as you've just been demonstrating, the temperatures are far more extreme than they are used to. That's Dr. Robert Huggins there, Chief Research Officer and President of Athlete Performance at the Corey Stringer Institute at the University of Connecticut. Really appreciate your time. It's going to have a big effect for England and Scotland players at the World Cup and those from other nations with cooler temperatures. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we're going to take a look at the weather.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News weather.
Well, the weekend is promising to be warmer with more settled condition as high pressure builds from the south. For the rest of us this week, however, we can expect further showers or longer spells of rain as low pressure remains close by. This evening, many central and eastern parts of the UK mainland will be dry with sunny spells. However, showers already over western parts of the country will spread east. As dawn approaches, a more organised band of showers will move across northern England and the Midlands. It's going to be a chilly night with temperatures dropping into the mid-single figures in rural areas. Tuesday, cool, breezy with sunny spells and showers for most of us. England and Wales, those showers will move through quite quickly, but they'll become slow-moving over Scotland where the winds are lighter.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News weather.
That's all from the UK tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Up next, it's The World with Yelda Hakeem. I'll see you tomorrow night.